where I can.
Hey, we do what we can. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, listen, CoronaCon has been absolutely phenomenal. Shout out to Cliff and Dre with Turn to Your Neighbor. That was awesome. Right now, I have an individual who is just phenomenal. If you grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, you've seen her on BET, MTV, her own TV show. She fixes up stuff. She's super duper brilliant. She's funny as hell. And she loves plant-based food. Her dad is awesome. You know what I'm saying?
My dad is awesome.
Your dad really is. I love your dad.
I don't know if I can agree, but my dad is awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, the incomparable.
I was on TV. That part is true.
Ananda Lewis is in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What's poppin'?
What's up, Jay? How you doing?
I'm doing good.
How's CoronaCon going for you?
CoronaCon is good. I want to go out.
Yeah, well,
you know,
go out.
Go out. Want to do things.
Y'all gotta stay, lay low, stay home.
No, listen. I got this thing about death. I don't know this, man.
I got this thing about dying because I can't breathe.
Yeah, see
like
that?
Drowning. I don't like the idea of fire death. I mean, we're all gonna die, so we got to face that at some point. You're not gonna avoid it forever. You can run as much as you want, but it's gonna get you one day. But it ain't gonna be today, and it ain't gonna be Corona. So
it really ain't gonna be that.
Yeah, that whole I can't breathe thing. That to me is like a really, really rough way to go. I would like to avoid that at all costs. And if all I got to do is sit my butt in the house, okay. I've been looking for time to get things done for like a year, and now all of a sudden it was like, here you go. I was like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, no, trust me, I get it. It's such a hectic thing though. Like, and people are bugging out. You know what I'm saying? So what?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've never experienced anything like this in our lifetimes, and I hope we never do again. But I mean, it really is a once in a lifetime situation that should be freaking people out. Not to the point that they're crazy and run around and the sky's not actually falling, but we have to be more careful. And I think it really highlights the kind of society we had become when you think about how meticulous we are about a shopping. The heck was that? Am I shooting in my house?
That ain't no gunshot.
Yeah, I must have left the bathroom window and knocked the bottle over. Anyway, when you think about how meticulous we are nowadays about wiping down a cart, I mean, think about how nasty we were before when we didn't wipe down a cart. And there have been things that can make us sick forever. Like, I think this is making us more aware of things that we really need to be aware of. And if there's, a silver lining, maybe that could be part of it. I hope we evolve into something different than what we were in a lot of ways.
Right. But I mean, I remember when you had your talk show.
I remember that.
You had the gloves on.
I blocked it out of my memory.
And the mask on. Like you were a pioneer. You ain't even know.
Oh, yeah. Well, because I've been OCD. There's no table here. I've been OCD a remarkable amount of my life. To have been around as many people as I am or have been, and shaking hands and I've always been aware of the nastiness that people are sometimes, and that external environments are, and that surfaces are. I was teaching my son about transference when he was 2, and he would say it. Oh, that's transference. Yeah, because if I cough into my hand and touch a doorknob and then I won't think about it twice, and you come behind me and touch that doorknob, whatever nastiness was on my hand is now on your hand, and then you rub your eye, and now you have whatever I have. It doesn't have to be Corona, people. Like, there are nasty things we can spread to each other, and I just have always been protective in that way. And I was 2 years ago, I pitched to a producer friend of mine this short that I wanted to do called How Your Shit Ends Up in My Mouth. Right. That's how it should make you feel. I never did it because I didn't follow through on it. And I was like, oh, I had all these ideas and I wanted to, because how many people walk out the bathroom without washing their hands? I mean, pre-coronavirus, I would watch. How nasty is this bra coming out the bath? I want to see who's nasty. So I would, pay attention. No, she just walked up right out the bathroom, didn't even look at the sink. I'm like, what? So now whatever mess is on her hands, is now on the door out of the bathroom. And long before any of this, I was grabbing paper towels to open the door and teaching my god kids. I always talk about my one kid, but I really have 7. 6 of them are my god kids, and
Right.
they feel like mine. And ever since they were little, like teaching them to grab the handle with paper towel. All of these things are good human habits because we live in a global society, and we share the world, and it is what it is, you know.
Absolutely.
So
Now,
that we don't have to end up in the house for another month.
hey, listen, how much do you love your kid
Love him.
right now?
What? Because he's at his daddy's? What do you mean right now?
I did not even know that Langston was at his daddy's. Because listen, my kids they're all over me. The one kid, you know, the Nintendo Switch wasn't acting right. The other kid, you know, her phone died, so that was crisis. You know, they want to climb.
The world started falling apart.
Oh my God. Like,
I mean, I love him. And as you know, I homeschooled for a very long time. And now I don't know how I can't even recall a time where that would be okay with me today. I'm like, what was I thinking? But, you know, and then I think about when I was little, I used to get beat a lot though. And now I'm like, oh, this is why I got whooped so much. Got it. But I'm not spanking my child. And so I end up having a lot more debates, a lot more conversations. And sometimes I feel like I should, because he'll say or do something. And in my mind, I would just see myself getting popped in my mouth because that's what would happen.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, you just got away with that, you know, but we're living in a different time. And if we want to create a different humanity in a couple of years, we have to create different people. And the way we do that is by how we raise them. So I think it's important to be a little more conscious of that. Right. And it is more difficult to parent that way. Much more difficult. Because once you get hit, you shut up.
Yeah, every time I don't like beat one of my children down, I feel proud of myself, and I also feel like a tree hugging liberal at the same time. You know what I'm saying? And it's different because I'm a man, and I'm like, if I hit my daughter, then I'm sending a message that you know it's okay for a man to put his hands on my child, and then if a man puts his hand on my child, then I'm gonna put my hands on that man, and I'm gonna go to jail. I don't know if you've seen the resume.
Freedom. So you're trying to maneuver the avoidance of that right now. I totally understand that. I'm trying to teach my son, you know, the same thing. I don't want him thinking it's okay to put his hands on women, but these little girls come at him sometimes. I have a policy of self-defense. If you get hit by somebody, you give them a warning. If they don't heed the warning, then it's another conversation. I'm not saying what now. I'm just saying you're not going to get beat up on by anybody and not be able to defend yourself. And he's known that for a really long time. Now, girls might be a different set of circumstances. The older he gets, I'm like, listen, that girl didn't do that to bug you. She did that because she likes you. Like that conversation will probably come up in the next 10, 20 years. I'm hoping it'll be that far away. It's probably next year. I don't know. But it's a fine line. And you're so right to be conscious of that because she will get her idea of how she should be treated from you.
Right. So for people like, because you and I are friends off of this, but for people who like haven't seen you in a while, don't know, like, I'm just going to save people the time. Where have you been? Because that's always, well, Ananda, where's she been?
Right here in this skin. Same skin I've been in. Been in my skin. Whole time. Ain't go no damn well. I know, Dave. I think it looked like after doing as much as I did on TV for how long and in as big of a way, like being on someone's TV screen every single day for a very long time and then poof, you know, disappearing. I know it probably looked weird, but I wasn't thinking of that at the time. I was thinking of what I needed to do. And when the talk show started, well, first of all, we launched the day before 9/11. So that was devastating for shows that had been on for years. But I wasn't happy with that process way before 9/11. Mm-hmm. And it didn't get any better, you know. I don't blame other people for things. I typically try to take full responsibility, and yet I know everybody plays a part in everything they're involved in. So I take responsibility for my part. I was adamant about how I wanted things. That, in some people's opinion, makes you difficult. Whatever, you know, label schmabel. I'm a do what I need to do. And there were so many things that just weren't happening right. And I think we did a pretty good show in spite of all of that. I'm proud of some of the episodes we produced and did. But overall, I couldn't sustain the level of unhappiness in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so when things started to kind of stop, and I wasn't paying attention to ratings and stuff. I thought we were doing pretty good for a while. I don't know if we were or not, or they just tell you stuff because they like you too difficult. Whatever the reason, we were ending, and I was like, I gotta go. I got a job offer back from MTV. They were like, listen, it was fun. You did great. Come on back. And I needed to get out of New York, and I needed to get happy again. And in all that same time period, I'm getting these calls from my grandma. She's having this decline happen in her life. And she, she's having accidents. She's forgetting her keys in the car, like all the typical or, normal things that happen with aging. And she was in her 80s. So she called me one day and she said, if I end up in the backyard by my favorite rock dead, just know I went where I wanted to be. And I went, what is going on? This
Damn, that's specific.
Who raised me? I mean, it was like alarms started going off in my head. I was like, what's going on? And there were things going on at home that she didn't like. She didn't want to leave her house. She didn't want to do any of that stuff. And I said, oh, it just kind of dawned on me, like, oh, I'm supposed to get the hell out of here and go there. I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I had money and I knew I wanted out, right? And so, and within like 3 weeks, I packed up 2 U-Haul trucks with the help of like 5 different friends who came out from San Diego. And we drove from Jersey to San Diego. And I spent my grandmother's last 2 years of her life with her, taking care of her and having fun with her and reconnecting with her and paying it back, and I guess hopefully paying it forward. I don't know, but definitely paying it back, to her and reminding her that she was loved and wasn't going to be left somewhere, and it was the best thing I've ever done, really. Yeah. And the best time I've ever had. Like I got to read her favorite Bible verses to her while she was laying unable to, move out of the bed after this surgery she had to have probably 1.5 years in. And I mean, there were just so many moments of being there for her the way she was there for me. And I've never gotten to feel, and some of us may never get to feel, it's such a blessing to experience that in a lifetime, like someone who poured so much into you, you getting to pour back into, right? And you getting to say, thank you, and here, and I was able to do it with a full bank account, which was a blessing too. So, it was time to go, and there was no social media. I couldn't explain it to people. I don't know if it was something I would have shared either way, but I'm a pretty private person. I maneuver in silence most of the time. And that's true even to this day. And it's what I needed to do and what she needed me to do. And it all worked out in the end. I was there for her the whole time. And that's something I will always be so proud of myself for.
Yeah, no, trust me. I actually, when I left Dallas, I came home and got to spend the last 2 years of my grandmother's life with her.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
That hands-on, like,
that hands-on, spend time with, fill in the blank, stories like that. I come home, like I literally drop my bags off at my brother's, go to my grandmother's, and I'm looking in her living room, and she has the pictures of my mother and my aunts and uncles, for their graduation. And I was like, yeah, I said, Mimar, I said, you guys did a good job. Everybody except for Aunt Fran got a degree, and Aunt Fran went and got a corporate job with the state. I was like, y'all pull this off. And she said, well, Dave, me and your grandfather like to have a lot of sex. I was like, the relationship, right? I was like,
that's not what I'm
but it was the greatest though, because the relationship had changed. I went from being her little big head boy to, like she's recognizing, my manhood, and we had to have some really cool conversations. But I want to tell people things about you that they may not know.
Don't tell them too much.
I know the boundaries.
Things I don't want people to know right now.
Yeah, listen, I know the boundaries.
Of course you do.
You are really handy, like you're literally like a contractor. You like fix people's stuff. You teach people stuff.
Yeah, contractor. So I'm
not from you know what I mean.
Well, I heard what you said. And what you said was I'm a contractor. That's not true. I'm a carpenter. I have a degree that I got in 2010 in carpentry, but I have studied the contractor stuff. I'm just not going to be like, I don't want to hire myself out to other people. I manage like, in family properties and stuff, things that I have direct access to and control over. So, but I got that degree because I love carpentry is probably my son, and then like all my kids, and then carpentry. It's next. And my family's in there too, but no, I love it. I'm one of those people who has dreams about building stuff, and because I can run the chief architect program, I can like design my own things. I mean, I love it. But I'm learning in this whole crisis, because I can't get out and do any construction. I guess I could build stuff in the garage, but and put it where I got all the furniture I need. I'm learning that sewing is very much like carpentry. And my grandmother, she didn't actually technically teach me how to sew. I was too stubborn and ignorant as a child and impatient. But she was able to teach me a little bit, like the basics. And just watching her, a lot of times we learn from observing the best. And I observed her for so many years doing these huge sewing projects. I mean, she would make clothes from scratch for different people in the family. And she could literally make anything, and watching her layer and watching her. And she always said, if you do it wrong, rip it out and do it again. And that's what my carpentry teacher was like: measure twice, cut once, measure 3 times, cut once. She said the same thing with that: measure 3 times, cut once. And so the principles of building, making, creating tend to be the same, even though you're going into different, specific genres of it, or fields of it. The idea that you need to be meticulous and pay attention to what you're doing is real. And the freedom of it is very real. I have a very similar feeling that I get in construction, doing like on sites, nailing walls up, as I do making masks. Very strange. I can't explain it, but it's true. So I like using my hands. I'm a very kind of hands-on person. I used to work on my truck. Like, I like doing stuff like that. And I've always had a mechanical mind where I can figure out how things are put together and take them apart and put them back together. So it works for me, and it keeps me stimulated. Because I think that's one of the hardest things people that I talk to are having to figure out, is like keeping yourself stimulated. You can just go into Lazyville right now with all of this time being told not to leave your house. Like, depending on what your living environment is, you may not have a whole lot of space. You know what I mean? And so puzzles, and I keep recommending to my mom, like puzzles and physical ones, as well as like crossword puzzles, things that keep your mind stimulated, are so important right now, while we can't get as much body stimulation as we're used to, because both things can atrophy. And your brain muscle can atrophy just like your leg muscles. So you need a brain day, like a upper body day. So I try to do a lot of that, and this helps with that.
Yeah, I'm not mad. You've been whipping up the masks though. The masks is serious.
Yeah, I really like these fabrics too. Well, I'm for lack of a better term, I'm a hoarder. And so, I mean, not like this.
No, but speaking of which, no, because I know you got a skirt because it's your dad's birthday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love your dad. Your dad.
No, he's down there watching TV. He ain't worried about it. I got like.
All right, cool. But listen, you have a bunch of, you have letters and letters and letters and letters from fans.
From MTV?
Yeah.
9, like almost 11 boxes. One of the boxes is kind of small, so I don't really count it, but there's 11 boxes in my garage. So.
But I bet you the small box got the best stuff in it.
Probably. I don't even know. I know that I transferred all that stuff into these boxes because the original boxes were so disintegrated and like falling apart. They had been at MTV, and then they gave them to me when I left, and I'm like, oh, what's all these? They're like, oh, this is fan mail that came from you. I was like, I'm seeing this 7 years later, like 5 years later, what's going on? And then I sent all that to my mom's, put it in her garage for storage. And then when I went to do the huge renovation I finished on her house in 2017, all these boxes still sitting in the garage, because my mom is like me, and we keep everything. We keep lots of it. So she wasn't throwing it out, and I have never been able to look at this stuff. I've never opened these letters. I don't know what's in the letters. I do know that at some point somebody must have opened some, because there were brand new ones sealed, still in the envelope. And then there were stacks of them in file folders that were labeled. One was labeled stalkers, one was labeled jail mail, one was labeled family, and one was labeled something else. And so those are open, but I've still never seen them. Like, somebody organized them, right? Like, so maybe if they thought if they gave them to me, or if I had went in the office, I don't even know. I don't know what they were thinking, how they organized them. I just know they came to me in these files, and I'm like, maybe I'll open those first. Wouldn't technically be open them, but look at those first.
Right.
Because I remember the stalker mail being very scary.
Yes.
And that might be why they stopped giving me the mail. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I can dig that, but the jail mail things have to be really interesting. You know, inmate P39 AI 543.
Yeah,
I watch you every day in the mess hall.
yeah. It's
I'm
gonna be
looking
something.
way to the yard.
I
Ugh.
remember when I first started getting, when I first started getting fan mail BT, I was so like, oh my God, somebody's writing me a letter. I was shocked. And I tried to send Christmas cards and thank you. Like I sent mail back. In the beginning, I would spend time during the week going, thank you so much, and writing. And then it got more and more and more, and it got overwhelming. And I don't know where the BT mail is, but that kind of transferred to MTV. And then at some point, I started seeing some of the stalker stuff, and I was like, hold up. I don't know who I'm communicating with. I don't know what, So the times that I did see it, I could understand why they would keep some of it away from me. I can understand that. I don't know if that's why it happened or not, but I could understand if that was the reason.
Yeah,
In my mind, I'll make that the reason.
yeah, I mean, might as well. Might as well. So,
But I'm gonna start opening that soon. I'm gonna start opening my old fan mail. I
yeah,
don't know what to call it. I'm right now. I'm calling it flashback fan mail, but
yeah.
makes sense
I
to
mean,
me.
working title, we'll figure it out.
I like alliteration.
Listen, so when it comes to your time now and
Yeah.
splitting your time between, you know, being a mom and, well, stuff is shut down, but prior to, you take a TV project here and a TV project there. What's
Mainly
the,
carpentry TV projects.
yes, yeah, because those are the right ones. When you help women specifically, you know, get over their fears, like what are some of the main things that they have in their heads when it comes to carpentry and things of that nature?
Just that it's hard and they can't understand it. And listen, for the women I know who I help that are moms, I always say, you have raised children. There is nothing harder you will ever do in your life. This is way easier than that. I am asking you to use a screwdriver. You've been taking care of a living thing for however many years you have. A person, you are like developing a person. You're doing the most important job on the planet. And this is just another skill to put in your toolbox, right? So I think we just have such a, or had such a, I don't know who we're going to be coming out of it, so maybe it won't be true going forward, but we have been living in a society that is so determined to decide that this is what men do and this is what women do, and
Right.
girls can't do this and boys can't do that, that we've limited both sides. You know, we've taken a man's ability to be emotional away and called him feminine, with like, that's an insult. First of all, you came from a woman, so you want to insult me anyway.
Right.
We've removed his ability as a human being to emote and feel accepted for that. And we've eliminated a woman's opportunity to be strong and independent, and said, "My bad, that's the call. I'm back. There we go."
There
And
you go.
said, you're being too much like a man. So all of these bullshit ideas that someone else created however many years ago, that they decided everybody's going to think like this going forward, I think we have to willfully decide to ignore them and kick them out of our heads. Does it work for your life? That's the question. Does it work for your life? And that to me is the question I ask myself with anything. I mean, literally everything. It's like, does that work for my life? I don't care who else is doing it. I don't care who says I should do it. I don't care who's asking me to do it. Does that work for my life? Does that thinking work for my life? Does that project work for my life? Does that person work for my life? And if the answer is no, you have to make a different choice for yourself. And that's just how I look at all this. How I looked at carpentry. I was like, people thought I was, the few people that knew, thought I was absolutely crazy. I still had jobs coming in. I had meetings I was supposed to take. I had network, my agent at the time was like, I'm sorry, you're not meeting with this really important person because you're at carpentry school, like all week during the work hours, I can't set up any meetings. I'm like, yeah, you have to be able to, for yourself, do what works. And sometimes that means, I've lost friends over this kind of stuff. I have, rifts in my family that have happened because of choices I made. I'm not responsible for what other people think or how they feel or what they want. I'm responsible fundamentally for what I want and how I think and how I feel. And if I can start with making sure that's okay, there are compromises you can make within that. Those are up to you, right? But fundamentally, I will not allow myself to be in a situation where I really don't want to be doing this shit, right? So I've had to say no to certain jobs that made so much sense on paper and on check, but I don't want to do it. So I can't. Now that might change after this because I need to make some money, but
Hey.
That has been my stance. And I'm so grateful that the kind of jobs I do want to do, like While You Were Out, like the pilot I did, I don't even remember what it was called because I only did one. What's it called? Changing Spaces. I'm so grateful those things come up because I really do want to work in the space of construction. And I don't care if I do that on TV or not. I have my own projects I can do, or I can do projects. I think it's great to see women doing this, though. I think it's really good for young girls to see women doing it, because the minute that you see something that defies the BS you've been told, you can now say that might not be true. This might be true. And
right.
you have a reason to deny that. You have a reason to say, oh, there's another way that this can go, and so I think that's important, but it doesn't matter to me which way it is shown, I might do it myself. Who knows? Right now, we're just in a holding pattern. We don't know.
Yeah, don't nobody know nothing now. Like all the plans people's had, we like, yeah.
Yeah, what was I doing? Oh, nothing. Yeah, right.
Yeah, hell if I remember. So look, there's some people there's a lot of comments. So I'm just scrolling back here to see what I see.
Oh, I can't see that. You're the host and moderator.
No, I am the moderator. I'm doing it all. I got a hat on. So
you're multi-talented, man.
Yeah, I do what I can. Gia says,
I really like the masks out of this cloth. Although when I look at it, it looks like a virus, doesn't it? I was like, oh, it kind of looks like, did y'all see Outbreak? It kind of looks like the virus.
Yeah. Yeah, see, your ass.
So many things are wrong with me, dude.
Ananda Lewis is not the person that needs to be cooped up. She needs fresh air and nature. And what's funny is, ever pay attention, like when she gets around plants, like my wife, like it's animals. I call my wife Snow Black because like animals just come to her, like birds will land on her fingers, butterflies will drop on her nose and shit. But with your ass, the plants, you like poison ivy. Like the plants will come and just touch your face. And you be like, hello, friend. I'd be like, but folks saying, Gia says, I agree with you, Ananda. I was saying something similar the other day regarding how nasty people were before Corona. Yes. Yeah, so listen, all you OCD people, like, my wife
winning right now.
Yo, my wife is so clean. I say she over cleans. Like it be sparkling. It actually makes sounds when she cleans. Now I'm like, damn, I'm so happy I got me a wife that over cleans, because ain't no Rona in this house.
No Rona coming in. But be careful with the cleaning products. I will say that I'm more concerned about the toxic exposure to some of these chemicals than I am about like a virus, because there are more natural substances that can still protect you from the gunk without adding to the problem, like a lot of the toxic substances do. So I would add that to that. But I'm sure she cleans with good stuff.
Yeah, no, she cleans with a lot of good stuff. Mache says, when it comes to the fan mail letters, can we get DMX to voice the fan mail letters?
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, Ananda, you know what I'm saying? I've been watching you from Wisconsin, and what? He said either him or Gilbert Gottfried.
That's an awesome idea. I love it.
Let's see. Funny. Let's see. Elizabeth says, I'm a creative also. In my head, I'm handy, but my hands prove another thing.
It's just training. Like you don't know how to do nothing. You know how to do. You didn't know how to do any of it until you learned it. So it's just learning it. It's just, riding a bike. It took you a long time, and now you know. And now you can wait 5 years and jump back on a bike and be like, oh yeah, I remember this. You're training your body. And I think this is one of the fundamental things that I enjoyed more about homeschooling than I do about this regular school. We're not teaching these kids anything really useful or practical. I'm looking at what my kids learning now that we're having to do their curriculum, and walk them through it ourselves. And I'm like, why the hell you need to know that? That's not important information. That's not something he can apply to his life. It's like just useless kind of random facts. Some of it is interesting, but I want my son learning things like finance. If you're going to teach him math, let's do it through how you balance a checkbook and how you count your money in the bank. How do you, what's $150.58 minus it? What's your change supposed to be at the store? I want him to learn practical things, and that's up to me to teach him, because I don't have control over what the school systems do. I have control over what I do, and he's my child. And so he will learn that stuff the way I want him to learn it. But it's mind-boggling, the stuff they need to know versus the stuff they're learning. If I was able to learn carpentry in like high school, and I know there are some high schools who have like wood shop and stuff, but I mean, while you're young and full of energy and your brain is still developing and absorbing things like a sponge, like learn the real stuff, right? I don't even want to think about it, because it makes me mad sometimes how much time had to go by before I was able to get to the information that I really wanted, you know, and what it took me to get to that information. It's like, so and music too, like how long it's taking me to get to music is so ridiculous. And it was my fault because I played violin and piano as a little kid from like 4 years old, maybe 6 to like 14. And then I quit. And I quit because they wouldn't let me play jazz. They would only let me play classical and violin. I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing this, you know, massive music no more, which is how I thought of it at the time. I was really radical as a kid. So I just quit. And now I'm like, could you imagine if I was like, please, my mind explodes when I think of like the well-roundedness I would have had. I mean, I'm pretty well-rounded, right? But you can always do more. There's no limit. And I don't like to limit myself. I'm like, yeah, I'm good at this, but I also want to be good at that. And I have my friends in Jam Nation, you know, that I jam with every week. And we're still trying to figure out how to do a virtual jam. They're like real musicians. And I just look at them and go, oh my gosh, you know what the note is. They'll say, let's do it in C. And everybody, all of them know what C sounds like. I'm the only dummy in the room like, can somebody play it for me? You know, I mean, there's so much to know out there that's practical, right? Give me the note, but no regrets. I'm just, when you know better, you do better. And I think it's important as a parent to apply the things that you wish you would have done, you know, in your life to your child, not to force them to live the life you didn't live, but to give them the opportunity to have this abundance of information and exposure, so that they can do something with that later on down the line if they feel like it. So my son takes piano and drums, and you know, fights me every step of the way, but whatever, I still ain't gonna beat him.
No, you ain't gonna beat him. You're just gonna force him to you know,
right.
not have
I'm
any
just
other
gonna
option.
take all of his devices, because that's the new spanking.
No. Cut the internet off. Cut the internet off under normal circumstances and watch people cry the blues. Listen.
Oh my gosh. This would be so much, this would be way different with no internet. Please don't let that happen.
In Jesus' name. Listen, January said, where exactly did you learn your carpentry skills?
Los Angeles Trade Tech College here in Los Angeles, downtown.
Nice.
I did a 2-year program. I have an AS in carpentry, and I got a 4.0. So I'm just saying because I'm proud of it. I don't be bragging like that typically, though. I did get a 4.0, and I earned that.
No, but in case y'all don't know this, I'm gonna give y'all a fun Ananda Lewis fact. He does not believe in chairs.
I do believe in chairs. I'm just trying to get my exercise in while I'm talking. It's my little bouncy ball. Look at that.
Look at that.
I need to, you know,
you got them in different colors, right?
No, I just have this one. This is actually the ball that I labored on when I was delivering my son. It's the same ball. I've cleaned it.
It's held up.
What? Oh yeah, right? Is that amazing? It's held up. He's 9. And I use it as a chair because it's so much better for you. But you know, listen, that's what I go a lot of different places, Dave. You know, we have conversations. I'm like, what was I saying? Oh yeah. When I was saying what we need to be teaching our kids, learning our bodies. We're in these magnificent machines and we know this much about how they work. And one of the things that I'm learning, and that's becoming really important for me to know, is just the fundamental ways my body works. Like sitting still for 3 to 4 hours a day raises your risk for things like heart disease and strokes by a huge percentage. All you have to do is move on something. And that's why they have those standing desks now. So you're not sitting down at the office. Well, you ain't at the office now anyhow, are you? But before, when you were at the office, you'd be able to stand, because these bodies are not made to be stagnant and stationary. We're supposed to be moving and walking and doing, and not necessarily, you know, heavy weightlifting. That's fine if you want to, but that can be actually harder on your body than it's worth the opposite way. But we're supposed to be in motion. We're supposed to be active. And when we're not, we have consequences for that. So for me, the ball really satisfies a lot of, you know, what I miss not being able to get out right now. But even before that, like it maximizes my time. I can be working and exercising because I'm a multitasker.
I'm not mad at multitasking.
Me
I'm
either.
like the multitask king.
I know you are. For a guy, you're a really good multitasker.
I
See
know,
how I
smoke
still
and
got a
mirrors.
little bit biased and
You know, you're my friend and you work with me, so there's those things. Let's see here. I want to make sure I don't miss anybody.
I finally washed my hair today, Dave. It's been a
Yeah,
long time.
no, listen,
It's kind of wet.
that's an undertaking in and of itself. Cliff says because Cliff and his homeboy Dre, they do a show for Christians that was on right before we were on. He says, I can now say I opened for Ananda Lewis, #resume.
Hey,
Stephanie D. McKenzie says, yeah, exactly. On the germaphobe stuff, #team germaphobe. So, like folks are really, feeling this thing. So what are some tips you think people can use when it comes to dealing with the Rona?
Well, yeah. Well, since we're on the CoronaCon, let's talk about the Rona. So what I do, this also goes back to before Corona, but it's super important to implement in your household, especially because of Corona. Take your dang shoes off at the door. Don't walk through your house in shoes. You don't walk outside on top of people's spit and nonsense and dog poop. Don't bring it in your house. Because that's the number one thing you can do to reduce the amount of filth and grime in your home. And we've been doing it in my household for years and years and years and years. That's number one. Number two, I would say I keep a spray bottle of alcohol at the door. So typically I'm the only one that comes in and out. But when my son comes back from like seeing his dad, I spray him down. One time, my father's been out one time in like 28 days. So I sprayed him down, I spray myself down. And depending on your living situation, if you can actually take your exterior clothes off, the stuff that's been in contact with the air outside and other people potentially, if you could take that off before you come in your house, even better, because now they're letting us know, it's like this information has just been leaking out. In all fairness, they're learning about it as they go as well, since they've never seen this in this capacity before, this particular strain of it or whatever. But now they're saying that the virus can live on your clothing for a certain amount of time too. So that's why I do the alcohol, because alcohol is going to kill stuff on surfaces, on clothes, on, whatever it touches, is my understanding. So I do that. Also, the masks are being said to be important right now. I don't know if that recommendation will change again. It makes sense to me if your mouth and your eyes, your nose, your ears, all your endpoints to your body, right? This is how you normally get sick from any regular cold or flu as well. You'll touch something like we talked about, the door, and then you like rub your nose or do whatever. And now that virus has gotten entrance into your body. So if you can cover those areas, then that makes sense. I would say goggles are important too, if that's the case, but most of us go outside with sunglasses, so that's sufficient. But any kind of barrier to me is going to work. I've heard some people say, oh, well, if you don't have a filter in there, it's useless. I think the filters are more important for the doctors in the medical community, people in the medical community, because they're saturated by the stuff around them all the time. So they're constantly having it come into them, and you need a better barrier. But if you're just running around, well, you ain't supposed to be running around. But if you're going to the store or to the pharmacy, the two places you're allowed to go, and you just have in passing some droplets passing, like, little bits in a big amount of air, unlike the medical people, their air is just saturated with it, you're going to be just fine. I would rather have it than not. I'll say that, because listen, if you take a spray bottle, put this on, spray your face, take it off, and look in the mirror and see everywhere the water went. That's everywhere that is getting, exposed. But if you have this in the way, you're going to get some blocking. Just on common sense, you're going to get some blocking. I don't know how effective it is for the micron size of the bug. Makes me feel better though.
Hey man, I'm definitely not mad at it. Listen, I know, it is your dad's birthday. I just wanted to take some time to have you on and say thank you for coming through, giving folks tips. Where can folks find you? How can they keep up with you? All that good stuff.
Ooh,
I
as
know.
social as the media is, I'm only on Instagram. I mean, I'm on other places, but I'm only consistently checking Instagram. It's the ease of use. It's the easiest thing for me to use. Facebook is driving me nuts right now. I can't figure out how to find stuff I need to find. Like anything frustrating, I have a low tolerance for, unless I'm really motivated to figure it out. But I'm glad that they communicate, because whatever I post on IG, I can just also post to Facebook, but I never actually go on Facebook because it's a whole nother mess in my brain. So really Instagram, what is my Instagram handle? I'm Ananda Lewis. because someone else is sitting on Ananda Lewis, but I think it's her real name, so I can't complain. And so that's really it. Like, I have another platform coming up that I'm not really ready to talk about yet because I'm still
getting to that later.
So, but I'll come back to you when it's time to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get into that
I want
later.
to protect my content, you know, the same way you are, because you can get pulled down from any of these sites like that. Say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of, you know, having to have permission to just say what I want to say and be free.
Yeah.
Plus, I think they block the numbers of people that can see. They do all these little algorithms, and you would know better than me. You're more techie, but all the stuff they do, it bothers me. So I kind of want my own thing. And if there's only like, you know, 10 people watching, so what?
Listen,
they my 10 people.
That's what I'll be saying. Listen, somebody said, well, you know, somebody had a comment and said, well, you know, that one thing, Dave, well, the numbers are good, but you know, it's barely packed. And I'm like, well, it's mine. I own it.
That part.
That's
most
it.
Important part.
That's it. No one's giving me permission. I could literally put on, you know, 2 chickens making love in the rain to Janet Jackson backwards. And
don't do that. But yes,
I wouldn't.
You wanted to.
First of all, that
Please
would be weird. It almost sounds like a demonic ritual. Listen.
I was like, what are you doing? Yes, I hear you. That kind of freedom is everything.
I want my freedom at all. You know me well enough to know that I want my freedom at all costs. I don't like to answer people.
I get it.
That's it. Hey, listen, one way or the other. You know what I'm saying? As long as it's legal.
Mine. Yes.
Listen, somebody out here has got to be the supervillain. You know.
Well, supervillains sometimes, you know, win the hardest.
Perspective. Listen, I tell people all the time, y'all give Lex Luthor a bad rap, but if you had some alien flying around with godlike powers who got cold breath and laser eyes, you'd want to make sure that you have some checks and balances in place too. Sorry, I'm humanity first. If that makes me a supervillain, so be it. Listen, you're an awesome friend. I appreciate you immensely. I love you to death. Tell your dad I said happiest of happy birthdays.
I will.
You know what I'm saying? What?
So old. He won't even tell my son his age. My son's like, Papa, how old are you going to be Sunday? And he's like, 100. So I got candles that say 100 for his damn cake. I was like, you want to be funny? Here we go. We're going to celebrate your 100.
You're not kind of petty. You are so petty.
Not that petty, but I can be a little petty.
Are you
petty? It's just petty does. What?
Hey, somebody got to get this work. Might as well be him. Yo, I'll see you soon, all right?
Nice to talk to you, Dave. Have a great rest of your CoronaCon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, yeah. So, we're going to keep this party going. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We're going to take a quick break, come back. CoronaCon has been amazing. If you have not gone to coronacon.live and registered, you should do that immediately. If you have not watched it on Business Bully TV, replays will be up in 48 hours if you did not catch it live. And if you did not get your free subscription to Business Bully TV, do that now by going to businessbully.tv and seeing what streaming service you can get to. But we're having a ball up in here. Hopefully you guys are getting some great information. You're learning, you're laughing, you're loving. And I'm sorry, this is better than binge watching y'all. You've seen every movie now. Ain't nothing out that you ain't seen. But this every day, we give you brand new, fresh content, huge surprises. Tuesday night, David Banner will be in the building, so make sure you tell all your friends to register because they have to register in order to get access to that program, because that will not be broadcast out everywhere. It'll only be on Business Bully TV and in the CoronaCon group on Facebook. So thanks so much for being here. I know we got Chad Harrigan coming up next, so I'm extremely excited. I'm extremely thrilled. Thank you so much for being here. You know, CoronaCon has become something beyond what me and my team had envisioned, and we hope you guys are getting some great value from it and having some fun. And so we will see you very, very shortly. All right. Check you out in a minute.